Welcome back to Still Loading, the podcast where we talk about the decline of everything, but mostly video games. My name's Aiden.
And I'm Matt.
And today we got probably the spiciest topic I think we've talked about.
Oh, yes.
We've kind of tore into the community a little bit. We've kind of talked about different aspects of games that we just don't really like, or what some features of some games are like problematic. But this is kind of tackling the problem with modern gaming as a whole. So I actually don't have anything positive to talk about before we start. I haven't really done anything good recently.
Nope, I'm still on sabbatical, so looking to break that today. But
yeah, I haven't played any new games recently. I am excited for a few games. Like I think I'm going to eat well in 2022 with video games. A lot of the games coming out are by Square Enix. They haven't done me wrong yet. I also trust Corey Balrog, so I'm sure God of War 4 or whatever is going to be amazing. God of War Ragnarok, it's going to be incredible. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 next month. Pretty excited about that. So nothing good to say yet, but I'm excited. I'm optimistic. I think things might be pretty good. They're all companies that haven't fucked me over yet. So
perfect.
Yeah. But don't worry, I will be talking about that on the podcast if they do fuck up.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I guess we just get right into it. One big thing that has become very prevalent to me from talking to different people, just kind of seeing like the different types of gamers out there, especially from communities I used to be a part of, where I would play games like World of Warcraft and really hardcore games. It seems more and more to me that people don't want a quality experience. People just want stuff to do. It's very much that quantity over quality mindset. Of like, if there's a lot of stuff to do, I'm great. That's what I want, and that's become really more apparent to me because some of the games that have come out that I've talked about that I thought were incredible. People hate them now because there's not enough stuff to do. I was like, okay, I get it. Like you want more stuff to do. That's understandable. But like the game as a whole was really good, so I don't know why you're complaining about it. So that's just been something that's kind of been like eating at me a little bit, and I think that I talked about this a little bit on the Open World podcast, probably more so, which you can check that out. That's one of our earlier episodes. But I do think that's a really big contender for why Skyrim is so popular, because there's just tons and tons of stuff to do, which it's that Minecraft mentality. If you like just stuff to do, I think Minecraft is a perfect game for that. It's not my thing personally, but it's really good for that. It's that Minecraft mentality. And I've actually been talking to the community a little bit with people about, just again, like Twitter, YouTube, different forums, stuff like that. But, well, why do you like Skyrim? Like, why do you think it's such a good game? And it really comes down to, there's tons of stuff to do. I can do whatever I want as well. Even though I kind of probed a little bit deeper, and a lot of them said the same thing. We're like, yeah, I try and do different builds, or I try and do different quest lines, but I usually am doing the same ones, and then I stop playing for a while. That seems really popular and kind of a norm, and I have to, kind of say, like, it really does feel like it's because Skyrim doesn't offer a lot of quality stuff to do. You pick out the 20 or so things that are fun, and then the rest is meh.
Yeah, I would say Skyrim's pretty guilty about that. I will say for time and place, like, I couldn't make these same criticisms back in 2011.
Yeah.
Just because coming from Oblivion and coming from Morrowind and stuff like that, that stuff was really great. The problem is it doesn't hold up, which doesn't make sense why that game keeps getting re-released and re-released and re-released. They're not improving core mechanics. They're just making it look better. And
adding more DLCs and stuff to do, and I think that's why people keep buying it.
Yeah, I played the DLCs when the Legendary Edition first dropped back in the 360's lifespan. And great, you can build a house and adopt kids, but now what? Like, that wasn't a quality content add-on, I don't think. Like, I don't think it merited the paycheck for it, Like, it's just not... It wasn't enough of a thing, I don't think.
I wonder if Bethesda's ever held, like, a press conference or anything and been like, well, what do you guys want to see? What kind of stuff do you guys want to see in an Elder Scrolls game? What kind of stuff do you like doing? And maybe try to focus around, those 10, 20 so things, and just like, okay, we'll really focus on those things in the next game. And that's gonna be Elder Scrolls 4 or 5, whatever it is.
It would be 6, which 6. I don't even think is in production yet. They focus so hard on ESO, and if you've ever played that, it's not good.
It's a very interesting MMO. I have played it a little bit. I think one thing I'm impressed by is that it does feel somehow like an MMO, but also like an Elder Scrolls game, and I found that to be interesting. The latest update, though, I did play it a couple of years ago, and like the latest update, just like I don't like it anymore. It just feels whatever power creep they did, or like whatever number squish, or whatever they did. I don't know. Just it's like fucking quests take forever, man. Like you're trying to solo it, like just enemies take forever to fucking die. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like,
yeah, that's again. I don't want to job a game. I want to play a game. I don't want to job it.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything else about Skyrim, or?
No, I think we've pretty well beat that.
Yeah, like I said, we did an open world episode about this. I kind of tear Skyrim apart, bit by bit. Not in a mean way. I actually have reasons for this.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, nothing that we say here isn't, hasn't been researched or anything like that. It's all stuff that we've put time and effort into to make sure that we're presenting information as unbiased as possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll fully admit when I don't like something because of preference. I'll fully
100%.
admit, like, yeah, I just don't like this because, of preference.
Because it's not your drive, and that's fine.
But, I love RPGs, and, like, Skyrim fails in that department really hard.
It does.
And I'm even okay with open world games if they're done well. And I've only played a few of them that I thought were done well.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to nail, but if you want to hear more about that, check out our previous episode about open worlds.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's pretty early, yeah. But moving on, like, I really do think, and this is a hot take for sure, I think that as games get better looking and there's more graphics and there's more stuff to do, we're not moving forward. We're moving backwards. I think that the industry itself is moving backwards. Down to the quality. People, it's about making the paycheck. It's about making the deadlines. Like, it's got to be done by this time. Okay, the fans want these things that don't really fit in the game, but that's what they want, so we have to do it. If we want to sell, we have to do it. It's going backwards in the industry. As games get prettier and all that stuff, it just quality gets worse and worse and worse.
I 100% agree with that.
It just gets to this point where it's like, I'm sure anyone who's like played video games for a long time can relate to this and be like, wow, I wonder what's going to be like in 10 years. Like, I wonder, this looks incredible. What's it going to be like in 10 years? I really don't think it would be this, honestly.
No, this is not what I expected. Something I want to hit pretty hard is establishing a precedent, right? It's very dangerous in any industry, but in video gaming, it's a very, very touchy thing to do. So you've got the video games being diverse as they are, meaning you have sports games, you have RPG games, you have racing games, you have all these different kinds of people who expect a different experience from the game that they play. When an industry-wide precedent gets set, it is very hard to move backwards off of it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's only the bad ones you can't get away from. Like, for instance, loot boxes, which are banned in European countries. You cannot use those features in those games because it is legal gambling. Once I would love to have done more research on this to find out when the first game to implement that was.
Probably Bethesda game, if I had to guess.
A loot box?
Yeah.
I want to find them and go kick them in the balls because.
Or Ubisoft. That seems like an Ubisoft thing too. Or EA.
Whatever, EA. That's probably where my money's at. But yeah, like you once you set that precedent down and people realize there's money to be made on the side with a game, you can't ever back off of it. Now that is a thing that you have to contend with, and now it's ruined. Again, gonna hurt EA again. It's ruined one of my favorite franchises, which is the NHL franchise. I love playing virtual hockey. It's awesome. It's fun. It's a good time. It's a good way to throw back some beers with the boys and just have a good time. But playing it for any other reason than it's just a fun couch co-op game, unless you were like god tier skilled or are willing to spend real money to buy virtual hockey cards to build a Ultimate Rush team, there's no point in playing it. The online play is fun, sure, but again, there's such a steep learning curve and so many people that will make new accounts and just destroy you on the daily because it's fun for them, I guess. It gives them some kind of joy.
Oh, the classic Smurf account.
Yeah, dude, it's a real problem. Like, people that have very low stats and they're just destroying me. I'm like, I am not this bad at this game. I say that a lot, but I am not this bad at this.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just that is just one precedent that gets set. I think higher graphics was another precedent. Like, we have to make these games gorgeous and sacrifice in other departments, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to people who actually care about it as an art form.
No, and that's one thing that Nintendo, like, Bungie and Bethesda I've blacklisted. I'm not buying any more products from those companies for various reasons. But Nintendo was on that place for a while where I was like heading towards it, where I'm like, I'm done with Nintendo as well. Because for so long, all they were doing was just really shitty remakes or like remasters of games that look worse than the original ones. Or they were just kind of, that's pretty much it really, was they're just doing that. Or like you'd get like one good title like every couple of years.
Yep.
But honestly, it was Legends of Arceus that made me change my mind, because I was like, okay, you know what? This took a while to make. No, it's not top tier graphics. But it's got like 3 or 4 things you do in it, and they're done super well.
Yeah.
This is great. This is a fantastic Pokemon game. And that really kind of like put me on the up and up. And I played a couple RPGs that like you can only get on the Switch, and I was like, okay, these are really good too. So I found Xenoblade Chronicles. I love that series now.
Yeah, Xenoblade's good.
Yeah. I remember playing Xenogears, like the PS1 game.
Oh yeah,
you remember that?
I never played that.
Yeah. It was such an interesting game because it was like turn-based, but you also had like mechs and shit. It was so weird, but it was super cool.
Actually, Blast from the Past, FromSoft has a game like that I love.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's called Armored Core 4.
I remember
Silent
Armored
Line.
Core, yeah.
Yeah, like super awesome mechs and badass shit like that. There was also,
I played one Armored Core game I didn't like very much, but I enjoyed the concept a lot.
Armored Core is a very interesting series because there is so much there's so much lore to dig into with it, and like to really get what's happening, like you it's not a game you can pick up in the middle of a series.
Yeah.
Because they'll give you like a synopsis of like what this branch of mech people is doing, but to like see how it fits into the full picture, you got to play all of them, which I don't mind because it's giant robots destroying shit. Like, what do you want? Like,
yeah, me and my friend rented it from Hollywood Video. So old.
Oh yeah.
God, I remember
dating yourself, bro.
Remember renting games. Yeah, we rented like I think the 3rd one, or maybe it might have been the 4th one. I don't know. I think it was on PS2, the one we got. So whatever one that was.
Probably Silent Line. That's the one I have. Yeah, I still play it. Like, it's a good game.
Yeah. Whatever one we rented, I was like, I'm not feeling this, but it is cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to open that can of worms, but I will say that like mech games, I'm not saying they're not for everybody, but like they're like guy movies, you know. That's a guy video game. I'm gonna build a giant robot and destroy things with it.
Yeah,
like that's a very like little boy playing with his toys kind of thing to do. I'm not saying that that's exclusive, but I'm saying that like by and large that's your audience.
Oh
you
yeah,
know what I mean?
Legos is a good example, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not for everyone, but
yeah,
because it totally can be. But by and large, that's going to be it's a guy's game.
It was probably marketed more towards that as well. I mean, the past.
Totally.
But you know, with good games and everything, like you gotta think about it. Like nowadays, a good game, and this is something that's good. So this is something that like,
a good nugget.
Yeah, so it's good. I think a good game, honestly, some of the more impressive titles I've played, like they're only around like 10 or 15 hours long. That's the entire game, 10, 15 hours, which I can knock out in a weekend if I have nothing going on. So,
I can set. There's some games that defy that rule that are PS2 era.
Yeah.
Like, I think Final Fantasy X boasted 200 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, too, is, you know, you compare that to an older game where it was still very quality for the time. Whatever you feel about it now, for the time, very quality.
Oh, yeah.
Easily play, like, you know, I remember the first game I played excessively was, like, Final Fantasy VII. And I broke the clock on that game because it only goes up to, like, 99 hours and 99 minutes, 99 seconds. So, like, I played it well beyond that. But, you know, you think about that, like, quality games, it did the thing it was trying to do very well, and it had tons of stuff to do. You know, it can be done. But you have to look at what's the difference. Well, back then we were working with 8-bit, kind of like maybe 16-bit, whatever graphics, versus now where an entire game will be not done because it's like, yeah, we're still doing the models. Like,
yeah, and that sucks.
And I think that's the difference, really.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying about precedence.
Yeah.
Once you set that this is what a game is supposed to look like, or this is what it can look like, and I would love to reach out to some of my international friends and find out if this is part of the American affliction, which is I want top shelf everything. I want the best of everything. I want like everything to be as primo as it can be because of American exceptionalism.
I think it is. I mean, even like no shade to our PC master race listeners, but I think the more toxic side of that really is that mindset of like, I've been seeing these great memes about like when people like PC gamers laugh that their $3,000 PC is better than the $400 console. I'm just like, cool, man.
I bet it is.
Yeah. The thing is too, I've done research on this, and like, and I'm one of the few people who's gifted to have a PS5, and I'm not, I understand it's not the case for everybody, but there've been comparisons now where like a top of the line PC loads like maybe 3 or 4 seconds faster than PS5 does. And it's like, if that's your fucking medium for like this is better, like, all right, I mean, cool, man.
I will say, because I've got a foot in both camps, I wouldn't say that I'm a PC master race guy. There are certain things I like to play better on PC. I do like upgradability.
Yeah.
That's it. That's end of statement, period.
Yeah.
I like the ability that if I can afford it, I can make it better.
Yeah, one of my friends really loves the aspect of building one. He said that's his favorite thing about having a PC. Is like, I just like building it. I just like modifying it. I like doing stuff to it.
Yeah, it's part of the hobby, you know?
Like that's his favorite thing about it. And like, I think there's nothing wrong with that. That's not toxic PC master race behavior to me.
No.
But you literally have people flaming other like console users basically like, oh, it loads so much faster, and you're just like, barely, but all right.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. I mean, there's I'd say there's bad in everything. Like there's bad.
Yeah.
There's the whole console wars thing, which has seemed to kind of fizzled out. I mean,
I think it's because we all agree that PC players suck, and so like we just kind of do our own things now.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just the PC players just throwing shade whenever they can. But they're like, cool, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't think anyone cares anymore.
I'll never play a hockey game on PC.
Yeah,
it won't ever come there. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. Like, I think it's okay if you love the hobby, like, experiment with every avenue of it. Like,
I think it was around like the. You'll have to tell me what the Xbox equivalent of the PS4 was, because I don't remember, but
that would be Xbox One.
Oh, Xbox One, okay. I think it was around that time that the console wars started to die out pretty much.
Yep.
Because people started to realize, like, it's really about what you want to play versus, like, what you're playing, like... If you want a wide library, you'd probably want a PlayStation, because they get these weird JRPGs, they get all kinds of shooters, all kinds of like weird whatever games. But Xbox is kind of centralized. You've got your war games, you've got your shooters in general, you've got Halo, you've got if that's what you want, great.
And their flagship game, which is Forza.
Forza? I don't know what that is, but
it's a motorsports game.
Oh, okay.
You literally race cars, and it's very, very, very in depth.
Yeah.
It's a game for car guys. If you like vehicles, you probably play Forza.
Okay.
It's a safe assumption to make. Or you play Dirt if you like rally. They're big on that. Microsoft has always been big on simulators anyway. If you look at like
exactly
PC simulators, like the flight simulators and stuff like that, that's always been kind of Microsoft's niche, is how can we make this and make it a video experience?
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. And I think I'm glad people are realizing that. And I do feel bad for the people, I see you guys out there, your Xbox. Is it still Xbox One or?
Series X now.
Is that the PS5 equivalent?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't even know. Is it as limited as the PS5? Is it as hard to get, or?
No.
Okay.
The Series S or Series X, like I said, I'm not even up on that really, has always been more available.
Okay.
My cousin has one, and he's a PlayStation guy.
Okay.
He got it because of a hack that happened for the Titanfall 2 servers. He couldn't play Titanfall on his PlayStation anymore. So we're talking a guy who's played Titanfall since it came out and still plays competitively. Like, that's his thing. Shout out my cousin John. He had to switch over to Xbox for a little while because the servers were so bad.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, had to completely change consoles, and then the same thing started happening with the Xbox community. So he just went back, and now he deals with it. Like, unfortunately, they've stopped supporting that game as well.
That is really sad.
Because that same company makes Apex Legends.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's their moneymaker. I mean, it's a business, right?
Yeah, it's really funny because I'm watching these people play Apex online, and I'm like, what the hell? They're using the flatline? That's a Titanfall gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally is, because they own it. Like, that's super rad. But unfortunately, the huge niche fan base that plays Titanfall is not going to get another installment for a while. And that's really sad.
Yeah.
Because Apex is taking over now.
That is sad. My point with that, though, was just that I've seen those people in the comments as well, like things I've been forums and like posts and stuff I've been delving into. Like, I've seen those people be like, hey, when are you going to bring this RPG over to Xbox? I'd really like to play it. And it's like, that's not the camp you're in, unfortunately. That's not what they focus on. And they get mad about PlayStation exclusives, or like, a PC port comes out before an Xbox port does. And it's like, I get that, and that sucks. But it really does come down to primarily what you play.
Yeah.
And if you're in the Xbox camp, like, that's not really going to be your focus, essentially.
No, yeah.
And that's just something you have to accept. I think that's why a lot of people have multiple consoles if you can afford it. I have a Switch, I have a PlayStation 5. Those are my two that I hang out with. There's Nintendo exclusives I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I just talked about a few of them.
Oh yeah.
And then but mostly PlayStation guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But kind of that's like a tangent, really. But I think the whole point was that comparatively to older games, a big feature that everybody wants, again, going back to, is like, you want stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is there's a really fine line between stuff to do and stuff you want to do.
Totally.
And it feels like a lot of people are more so in that, like, I just want stuff to do, and they'll be like, yeah, I played this game for like 100 hours, like, I did all the stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, some of that was mind-numbingly boring. I'm sorry. I'm glad you did it, but man, that sucks. That's like Breath of the Wild, honestly, for me. Like, that's a game people really love because there's so much stuff to do. Like, yeah, I got all the acorns, or whatever they're called.
I have no idea.
He's like, I got all the Korok seeds, I got all the shrines, I got all this. I'm like, boy, okay.
Yeah.
There's like 999 Korok seeds or something like that. I'm like, no, I would never do that. I'm sorry.
No.
It's like, hey, good for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But it seems like that's more so what it is. I mean, like, and so many games keep going towards the open world model, which baffles me. Like, there's a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog open world game coming out,
which I'm stoked about.
It doesn't make sense. Those two things don't compute.
I'm gonna reserve judgment. I'm not sure what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna play, but
I'm a forever Sonic fanboy, and I've been disappointed in the past, but I can't imagine open world being good, because I've seen some of the gameplay for it, and like, it literally is you just run around a fucking island, find like a tower to do, and do the tower, and it's like, okay. But I mean, I've always loved Sonic for the over the top action story that Sonic the Hedgehog is.
Yeah.
And like, that's what's cool about it, and like,
tooling around at the speed of sound, man.
Hell yeah, man. And this is a game people didn't like for some reason. It just baffles me. It's like Sonic Forces came out a few years ago. I fucking love that game. It's so fun. And
didn't play it.
It's so fun. And like, if you were like me, who was like a hardcore Sonic fanboy in like middle school, like, there was this website where you got to like make your own Sonic OC. Like, you just point and click basically, and like pick features from other Sonic characters and combine them and add clothes and weird shit and do whatever color you wanted. Sonic Forces like ignited that for me again, because you could make your own character in that game.
That's cool.
And it's just like, oh my god, like, my middle school me is so happy right now. And not only that, the soundtrack was bitchin', the story was really cool. Like, I don't know why people didn't like it, but it was really fucking cool. And I feel like because Sonic Forces was a failure, open world is the next frontier, the next choice. Like, well, they didn't like that, let's try this instead.
Right. That's kind of the pain of sitting in the minority with a lot of this stuff. And you can't be really loud in the minority because people just drown you out as being a hater for stuff like that. But
yeah,
there are certain things that I like I was talking about before with like precedents and things like that. Like, once you set that this is the way that games are moving, whether you like it or not, your favorite series is probably going to go to that, and you're going to have to, good or bad, just accept it. And like, I care very much about storylines and things like that, and then now you have to accept this open world storyline as, canon. That happened.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. Like, I don't think Sonic Adventures was considered open world,
No, it wasn't. Like,
but there was roaming options. You could tool around as Sonic for a while if you wanted to.
yeah, Sonic Adventures was, I think, really when I got mega into Sonic. 'Cause, like, I liked the Sega game, but like I wasn't. At the end of the day, it's just like a weird, fast-paced platformer, and I didn't really like platformers very much. But I got really into Sonic with Sonic Adventures.
Same.
And I was like, this is really cool. And I started watching like Sonic X and stuff, like the Sonic anime and stuff. I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah, Sonic's
You
a
know?
badass, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the niche I fell into with it.
Shadow had his own game too, which
Yeah,
was cool.
which people didn't like, but
Yeah, I liked it.
I liked it too. Yeah,
It's cool.
it was interesting. I like there's 3 different endings for the game, just depending on how much of an asshole you were.
No, yeah, well, I mean, if you're playing Shadow for real, like, you gotta be a giant jerk.
Yeah. I like that that game has 3 different endings that like none of which are confirmed to be canon.
Oh, yeah.
Because like his origin story is like so mysterious, like where he came from exactly.
Mm.
But like in that game, it's like he's either an alien, a robot, or like a clone. Like none of them are confirmed. So
I personally lean into the, he's the Chaos Crystal version of Sonic.
yeah,
That's the camp I'm in for that, but...
that's interesting. Let's talk about that.
Mm, yeah.
So speaking of just like stuff to do, something that's really started to grind my gears lately is people use the word linear like it's a bad word.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really tired of people being like, this game is so linear, it sucks. I'm like, hold on. Does it suck because it's linear, or does the game suck? Like, you have to specify for me, because I don't think linear is a bad thing.
No.
You know, going back to older RPGs where I came from, you know, those games could honestly be called linear.
Yeah.
You honestly could say, yeah, they're linear. You have a path you're going on. They're linear, sure. But each area, man, like there is so much character in it, so much atmosphere, so much everything.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this in last episode a little bit. Like, talk to the NPCs. They tell you things. They express how they're feeling living this fucked up world is, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the skybox. Look at the background. Like, you know, sure, it's not fully animated, but like, look at it.
Yeah, just would you look at it?
Yeah, there's so much character there, and it's like, sure, the gameplay may be linear, but there's so much in every single step of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you know, linear now is like, honestly, it's just, I think it's a blessing, to be honest.
No kidding.
If a game goes linear, I'm just like, oh, finally, like that means they centered on like 2 or 3 things. Fucking great.
Yeah, well, think about how irritating Devil May Cry would be if there was sections that didn't make sense to the storyline. Like, oh, you're pressed for time to do this thing because it has to happen. But you can also free roam over here and just waste hours and hours and hours before you go do the next thing. Like, that would completely take me out of the immersion for that.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely serves a purpose. And you're right. Like, games aren't allowed to do that anymore.
I mean, I think that was one thing that I liked about Devil May Cry 5. Like, however you feel about it, it was really beautiful, but it was still had that, like, kind of linear, well designed pathing.
Mm-hmm.
It centered on 2 or 3 things, and it did them very well. And that's a good game to me, you know? Like, and I think that this is a small scale of that, obviously, but I think that can be said about older games as well. They did 1 or 2 things, 3 things, they focused on those 3 things, and they did them extremely well. And graphics were not a restriction, because we weren't working with much back then.
No.
I'm not going to pretend I know how much money it took to make, like, you know, Final Fantasy VII, for example. Like, I'm sure it was a lot back then. Maybe even, you know, millions of dollars. I don't really know for sure. I'm definitely not a game developer, but it just was not as important. You could still make... There were even games coming out around that time that were still, like, 8-bit. Like, you know, Final Fantasy 1 era graphics.
Sure.
But, like, still coming out and people are like, these are great. This is fucking awesome, you know? And just... I don't know.
Well, so... another thing I want to touch on a little bit in that same vein is, like... If you look at something that comes out that's not like super graphically appealing, I know a lot of people's argument for that, for the folks that I've talked to, is like, well, I can get a game of this quality on my phone. Like, no, you can't. I promise you can't. Like, with everything else that comes with a mobile game, because there's a few mobile games that I like, but nothing that I would ever recommend to anybody. Like, if somebody found it on my phone, I'd be like, yeah, you know, I play with that a little bit. But
I
like,
fuck around on it. But,
yeah, it's not anything I'm like invested in. I don't really care.
Square Enix has released like some weird RPGs on the phone, which people really like for whatever reason. I think it's because it's supposed to be an RPG, but I don't know. I haven't played it, but...
Do you know what game I play on my phone the most? Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a good game.
Yeah.
And well, side note, finding out that I could connect a controller to my phone was like life altering for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's cool stuff. I play Doom on my phone because that's awesome. But as far as like a true blue mobile game, there's, again, it goes back to, well, I can pay real money and get good at this, or not have to get good at this. I can just have all the best stuff. But like, again, I think it's dangerous and an avenue we never should have explored.
It is dangerous. Speaking of just like this mentality people are in of like, I just want more stuff to do. It boggles my mind that a very common expression I hear is like, yeah, I can't wait for DLC to come out for this game.
Yeah.
Just like, don't you like think you deserve more game in general? Like, you paid $80 for this. Don't you think you deserve more game in general? Like, no, I can't wait for DLC to come out. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's something we've been conditioned to accept over the years. When it became a thing, people are like, sure, I accept it. It's fine.
As opposed to DLC actually adding something, it's like, oh, like we talked about this before in another episode. Here's the rest of the game.
Yeah.
That's crap. That's total garbage.
Yeah, and I personally would be fine if a game took a long time to develop.
Mm-hmm.
If it meant I got the whole game and it was all good.
Yeah.
I'm fine waiting. I want a good product, not a product.
There's a game I've been waiting for a sequel for since the early 2000s, and it's still in development, and unfortunately has been tabled. But I'm waiting for it to come back, and that's Bloodlines 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately they decided to go with the whole, well, crowd's really into
Battle Royales.
Yeah, so we're gonna
Battle Royale.
Yeah, so now we're gonna do that, which is really funny because, like, again, side tangent, but a lot of people like play these Battle Royale games and have never read Battle Royale, which is like, wow, this was a manga produced by Playboy. Just so you know, like, super hardcore story. But
I did play that Battle Royale Masquerade game, and like, I don't know, it was kind of fun, but my enthusiasm dropped with like each match I did, basically.
it's like, oh,
Because like when it starts you off, like you get a cool like little story intro, you get to make your character, and then you run around this compound like talking to these other vampires and stuff like that. And I was like, this is really badass. Like, this is exactly what I want. And then after you do all the stuff, all you have is like just do matches. That's just what you do matches.
that's your life now.
Yeah, and like I did like 3 or 4 matches, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm just not having fun.
Yeah, they should have taken all that development time and resources and poured it into Bloodlines 2 under the radar like they have been doing, and then just release it. Again, it's hard being a loud minority with that shit.
Yeah. I mean, shifting over a little bit too, this is kind of like the main point of what I've been saying. Is like, the fans demand a certain amount of something. They want more stuff to do. You have this point now where people, like, any game is going to have probably like 10, 15, 20 or so features that every other game has, because this is what people demand that it has. It has to have these things. And the result is that you get this really watered down subpar product. It's like, why do you think Pokemon as a game is so popular? It's still thriving.
Because it's simple, man.
It's a very simple formula. You can't fuck that up.
No.
Like,
I mean, look at Monster Rancher. You can fuck that up. But
well. Yeah.
Sorry.
I really like the anime, but I was really disappointed in the game.
Dude, I tried so hard to like the trading card game they had for Game Boy.
Oh, really?
I tried. Boy, did I try. But the whole time I was like, dude, I'm just playing Diet Pokemon. I'm not into this. This sucks. I
had the one on PS1. Well, like, the whole appeal of that, I was like, yeah, you can put the disc in and like open it up, and it'll spin around while you summon your monster, just like in the anime.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, that was so cool. But yeah, I did that, and I was like, oh, and I got like a weird like marshmallow monster, and I was like, this sucks.
Oh.
Because I think it was random what you chose, or I don't remember exactly. It's been years since I played that, but I really liked the anime initially. I thought it was really fucking cool. I think it was a great appeal source too. Like, it's definitely like it's appealing to gamers. The kids playing PlayStation get sucked into the TV. It's perfect.
Oh yeah. On that same topic, like, whatever happened to Digimon, dude?
It's still thriving, honestly. Like,
really?
Yeah. So I don't think they've made any more. Actually, I think Japan does have a kind of like revamp of like the original Digimon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird because they're like little kids as opposed to teenagers. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I haven't watched it, but I think Japan does have something like that. I've seen it on Hulu, but it's only in Japanese. But as for the series itself, it's still thriving. They keep making Pokemon games or Digimon games.
See.
They made a few. There was two that came out within a few years of each other. And this is like I want to say probably like maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe less than that. But they were really fun. They were just typical RPGs. It was turn-based combat, but you made your team up of Digimon, and like you could Digivolve them, and like they had all kinds of weird, like basically from every series, like some kind of Digivolution from that.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's like the ones you can fuse together. There's like the ones that like only evolve during like certain specifications. You have to get their stats up to a certain way, then they don't turn into that. It was super fun. That's one game I put hundreds of hours into.
Cool.
Sequel is the exact same way. They're two different stories, but like they all connect together in the same way. But they're so cool. Very, very good. They have a new Digimon game coming out that is like tactical turn based.
Okay.
Kind of like Disgaea is what it looks like. Like it has like the grid combat essentially. I might give it a try. That's not usually my thing. Like Disgaea has been the only exception to that, really. I never finished Final Fantasy Tactics, for example. I love the story, but I was like, I don't like this. This is not fun. I know.
Aiden never finished Final Fantasy Tactics is up there for my favorite Final Fantasy game. That game is legit.
I know what happens at the end. Like that's
It's not the same.
I know. Like I did watch a story about it.
That's
I was like,
not the
I wanna
same.
know, you know, it was really good, but yeah,
Shun.
It's just not the kind of combat I'm into because. I mean, I think Disgaea does it really well, and if Digimon does it the same way, then I'll be pretty impressed by it. But we'll see. The anime, though, oh my god, they came out with like a 6-part, so 6 movies about the original Digidestin, and then there's one movie after that that's like the finale, basically, where like it's the end, and all 6 fucking tear my heart out, dude. Or all
Jesus.
7 fucking tear my heart out. Like, it's right in the childhood. Like, straight up right in the childhood.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I own them. Like, I bought them just, I was like, oh, I didn't know these existed. And I watched them, and I was like, mistake.
I wish I didn't know these existed.
I'm so happy these exist, but also sad.
Ouch.
Yeah, dude, right in the fucking childhood. But it's still going strong, it sounds like, just in a different camp, which I appreciate. I think that it was called like Cyber Sleuth. I think it was like Cyber Sleuth 1 and 2 was what they were called. Because in those games, Digimon are kind of mainstream. Like there's this whole like virtual reality world that exists on the internet, basically. Because that's where technology's advanced at this point. And so Digimon are very common in that place, basically.
Oh, cool.
So some people even have Digimon and use them to like hack other things. Like they're like hackers, essentially.
Oh, cool.
So they're more common in that regard, but then there's like the whole story revolves around like Digimon coming into the real world or like something going fucking haywire on the internet or whatever, and it's where a lot of it takes place. But it's a solid RPG.
Dope.
Very, very solid. Both of them are good. And what I love too is that the sequel takes your Digimon compendium and transfers it over, so you can kind of see what things evolve into and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See, that more of this.
Yeah.
More games like this.
Yeah, I think my final playtime was like somewhere around like 500 hours, but it takes both games playtime total and like adds it together.
That's cool.
So like
that's a true sequel then.
Yeah, like you start the game and I'm like, I have not played this for 300 hours. What the hell?
Weird.
Yeah.
I just booted it. What the hell?
Yeah.
Where did my life go?
Yeah, but I mean it's super good. Yeah, just
Yeah.
Talking about good things. I have to go back into the bad stuff now.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, a really good example of a game that fails in this regard is, I've talked about World of Warcraft before. I gave 13 years of my life to that game. I played it off and on for 13 years. Have dedicated tons and tons of time into it. But, you slowly watch that game add feature after feature after feature, and, like, none of them are helpful. Some of them are pretty useless in all regards. There's stuff people don't really want, but like enough people on the internet were like, well, yeah, we want like a Farmville simulator. We want like a pet battle system. We want like, we want to play like a battle royale style game in World of Warcraft. And so that's where those battlegrounds came from, where you literally drop down from an airship and like land on an isle and fight each other.
Yeah.
Um, and if you've been a long time WoW fan, like I think at this point, I don't think anybody who plays WoW denies it sucks.
Mm-mm.
Even the people who are hardcore, just like, yeah, this game fucking blows, but what am I gonna do? Stop playing WoW?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I do. I struggled very hard to stop playing WoW because I was like, dude, this is like a friend I've had for a long time, like 13 years, man. Like, this is really hard to just give up. I'm even feeling it now, like with the new expansion. I'm just like, maybe it won't suck. Like, maybe it's not that bad. Like, oh, that's a really good direction to take the game. Like, I'm so happy. Like, maybe I'll give it a try when it comes out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm even feeling it now where I have to be like, okay, stop. It's probably going to suck still.
That's your abusive ex, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It really is. Like, they come and tell you run to them in public, and they're just like, I'm doing a lot better now. And you're like, cool, you seem better.
Really?
You seem better, Like, do you want to get coffee sometime? Like, sure, why not? Like, we'll schedule something.
Yeah. And then you just don't ever keep that appointment because that's bad juju.
Yeah, that's what I need to not do. But I mean, I'll be fully honest. Like, I'm in that place where I'm like, yeah, it looks kind of good. I won't. I don't think I will.
Stay strong.
I'm trying really hard.
Your friends are here for you.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard to be that. But that's what I'm saying is that you've watched it degrade for years and years and years. And, like, what's the common denominator? Well, they did a graphical update. Instead of fixing the game, they just made it look better. Cool, I guess. They added a bunch of useless shit half the community cares about.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, I guess.
So they polished a turd and put sprinkles on it.
Yeah, exactly. And in a direct comparison to this too, and like I encourage you. I'm sure you've heard this before. If there's any WoW players out there, I'm sure you've heard this before, especially like within the last year. Play Final Fantasy 14 because it really is a breath of fresh air. You will experience kind of what you've been wanting WoW to be the entire time, but a different world, a different everything, like better gameplay in my opinion. Like, because with Final Fantasy 14, it's kind of like, we'll use pillars as an example. It's got like its 10 major pillars that the game focuses on. You've got like raiding, you've got your dungeons, you've got your PvP combat, crafting. You have the gold saucer, which has all kinds of weird mini games in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with those 5 things, they kind of branch out to like 5 other things. Because with dungeons or raiding, for example, they're like the ultimates. If you want to do an ultimate raid, that's a really big time sink, but you're kind of a badass if you do it. Like you get a sweet title and you get like a cool weapon, and like if you have that weapon, you can walk around. People are like, oh, that guy's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
That's a branch of that. With crafting, same thing. There's like a whole expansion of crafting now. There's little treasure hunts you can do to get these really rare materials to make like these really high level items or these really just unique mounts or whatever. One that's still, I think it's from a few expansions ago, but one that's still being hunted for is like a flying bed. Just because people want a flying bed.
Yeah, why not?
So people still hunt for those materials, PvP has so many different tiers to it because you can do casual PvP, but they can also do hardcore PvP because they have these special armor sets that you get purely for ranking high enough in the PvP brackets. So if you want to do that, there's a whole community to that where they're just like, yeah, we just PvP, that's our thing. That's really cool. There's even a new PvP mode that just came out that I fucking love. Like, I'm really into it. It's just like a 5v5 or maybe 6v6, I can't remember, but like if you ever played Overwatch, it's kind of like you have to push the payload kind of thing.
Nope.
But there's like so basically it's a small map in general. It's not super big, but the point is that there's this crystal you have to push from one end of the map to the other.
Oh, okay.
And so in between you're fighting, because if the enemy stands on it, it stops moving, and if you're not there when the enemy's on it, it moves to their side instead. Matches take like 5 minutes, which is really refreshing.
Oh yeah.
Like even overtime, like that's with overtime. So like I've been in matches where they end like after a minute, they end after like 2 minutes. Like they're very very fast, but it's so fun. It's just such a fun thing. And the same thing. If you get to rank 25, which I'm almost at, I think I'm at 21. I'm really close. You get a really badass set of armor.
Oh,
that's
neat.
Purely cosmetic, so you can wear it on any class, which is great.
That's for everybody.
Yeah.
Neat.
Speaking of that too, jobs. There are a million different jobs in that game. If you get tired, or you get to max level, or you get tired of what you're playing, like whatever, just switch to a different job. Just go level up a new job. It's really easy to level up a new job. So just go do that. It's fun. I'm sure there's other things I'm missing, but yeah, like I would say they have like their major pillars of things you can do, and all those features are really well done. They don't stretch themselves thin. They don't try and add some random fucking thing that someone's bitching about.
No.
They have these cool things in there, and like that's the game. Final Fantasy is the epitome of like, what do I want to do today?
Not what do I have to do to get this, to get that, to do this, to get this thing I don't care about.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is like, I mean, I've spent like the last few days like just doing PvP. I'm like, I'm just gonna do PvP.
Yeah. Because you can.
Yeah.
You can just do that.
Yeah.
Versus in WoW, it's like, well, it doesn't matter how good at the game I am. I don't have PvP gear. I don't have the gold to go get PvP gear. So now I got to make this itinerary of things I got to do to get PvP gear so I can go play that function.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because that's so true.
Mm-hmm. And it's not fun. I don't care. PvP in WoW for me has never been fun.
As somebody who used to do arena pretty hardcore, I can concur. Looking back on it, it is very, very time consuming.
Yeah, it's time consuming and it's stressful, and if you lose, it's not your fault sometimes, and that really grinds me, dude. Like, I hate feeling like I did nothing wrong and losing anyway. It's like, well, I did my job. What the hell?
Yeah, right. And I mean, old WoW PvP used to be like that too, because like if you did world PvP, like if you wanted to be the top on your server, like you had to no life the game. It was the only way.
Yeah.
Which, no shade at old WoW. I think that's fine. Old WoW I like. That's probably the only thing. I'm just like, well, that's stupid. Like,
yeah, come on.
why couldn't it just be like I mean, it was based on a point system, but it was like, I watched a video about it and I can't remember, but it's like the way they did the math for it of like who became like number one on the server like back then. I was like, well, that's fucking stupid. Like,
well, yeah, all it takes is one person no-lifing it to make that the standard. Again, dangerous precedents.
Yeah, but you know, speaking of, like, we've kind of talked about how shitty the community is lately. The community for PvP used to be really cool, actually, because they would organize on their servers and be like, oh, like, you want to be number one this week or this month or whatever? Sure. Like, yeah, you want to get the armor? I understand. Yeah, I'll back down and, like, let you become number one. Like, they used to organize on forums and shit, and it was like, that's really cool, you know?
Yeah. But that community is dissolved.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miss Pandaria.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for allowing people to power level characters and being into a pug rig that I have to explain to you what a rotation is.
You know, I've actually never looked into it, because, like, my firm opinion's always been that Miss Pandaria is where the game went downhill. I've actually been looking into it lately and, like, watching, like, WoW retrospectives and stuff, and it's like, yeah, community pretty much agrees. Like, that's when the game went downhill.
Yeah, that's when we had a term for these, and the people that I played with, we called them Timmies, because Timmy's mom just spent money to have him power level a character, and I have to explain to him. Okay, I'm trying not to get too bitter about that, because that's a very big point of rage for me and my group.
Well, you know, so one thing I don't agree with, but I understand why Square Enix did it. They have power boost now as well, where you can kind of like get a next level character if you just want to do the whatever content, and that was requested heavily by the community.
Sure.
A lot of them were just like, I want to make a new character, but I don't want to do this expansion again. I just want to do this expansion instead. Or like maybe my friend is in this expansion. I want to make a new character but play with them in this expansion. That was the primary thing. Like, honestly, it's money on the table. You'd be stupid not to do it.
Yeah.
I get it. But, you know, a difference between a WoW community versus Final Fantasy community is like, I actually had a group the other night when I was doing just roulettes, which is like kind of like the daily dungeon things you can do. I was doing roulettes, and the tank and the healer were both new.
Okay.
And they even said, like, yeah, so, like, you know, after, like, we wiped the first time, I was like, what's going on? Like, why is the tank not keeping aggro? Like, what's happening here? And the healer was like, oh, like, we both boosted, so, like, we're new. And I was like, oh. And so me and the other guy in the group, we were super chill about it. We were just like, okay, well, you know, I wouldn't recommend that personally, but if you're going to be a tank, here's what you should do. This is how you tank. Because that was a really big problem. The healer was doing fine. The tank was just, like, not keeping aggro, didn't know his rotation at all. We were super chill about it. You would not find that in World of Warcraft. Like,
no, I will say my experience, just a personal story. When the Death Knight first became playable in Wrath, that's what I wanted to do. So I got my Warlock to 55, made my first DK. Fortunately, the guild I was in was top guild on the server, and I think Warpath was the name of the Death Knight who was leading the Warpath, or was leading the DK charts. And he sat outside of Orgrimmar for an hour and a half explaining to me exactly what powers I was going to get, what abilities to purchase first, what was most important to my class. He explained it to me from his own personal experience. Did he have to do that? No. But he chose to.
Yeah.
Because I was a new player playing a new class. And he's like, this has been my experience thus far. Here's what I can give you, and here's the pedigree I have to back it up.
At the beginning of Wrath, I had a similar experience because I used to play. I had like a hybrid of like subtlety and combat. That was like my build, and it worked pretty well. But in Wrath was kind of when they started doing that thing where like they really made certain specs focus on one thing or the other, and that's why they introduced that like dual talent system where you could split back and forth between specs. So yeah, my build didn't work anymore. Combat was nerfed, subtlety was only for PvP, and I was like, I guess I have to play assassination. So like, yeah, someone from my guild just like, hey, you play assassination. Like, how do I do this?
Oh boy, let me count the ways.
Yeah, like, and it was really cool, and like they broke it down for me, and we just sat there in like the Undercity doing training dummies, and he was like, okay, so this is your opening, this is like your rotation, like do that, and so he's like, you try now. So I did. He's like, okay, you got that right, but like, for, you know, because we had DPS meters, so he's like, okay, like you should be doing like a little bit more DPS here because I can tell you're not using this ability. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so like, got the rotation down. He's like, yeah, for your gear, you're doing top DPS like easily. And I was like, sweet.
Yeah. That's the way the community used to be. Now, if you have a question about like, well, these two abilities are similar, again, rolling back to DK, be like, well, my Cold Strike and my Plague Strike are very similar. They proc different things, but you know, which one is better? You ask a top tier DK, they'd be like, dude, just YouTube it.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck you, man. Like, I had an opportunity to have a real human connection here, and you chose not to. You picked to not do that.
Yeah. You know, just talking about WoW, different, not necessarily the community, but like, you know, let's look at old WoW for a second here. It kind of falls in the same camp I've been talking about. How much stuff was there to do, honestly, in old WoW? You had like 5 or so main pillars, we'll say. That was your WoW experience. Do you want to level? Do you want to raid? Do you want to do PvP? Do you want to do crafting? Do you want to like be an auction house sleuth or whatever? Do you want to roleplay? You know, that was the other one for Final Fantasy 2. There's a huge roleplay community. But yeah, those are like the 5 or 6 things you did in classic WoW. They were done very well. You can't fuck that up. So it's just, I don't know. The more features are added. I mean, I'm not saying, and I can't even list them all, but I'm not saying that all these features that are in a lot of games now are bad, but they're just really spread out and they're really thin. If you were to make a game with just, you know, dial it back some, take like half of them out, focus on those 10, you can make a game revolving around battle royales. You can make a game revolving around like some weird like PvP mode or like some weird combat mode or like whatever, you know. You can do it. And I think that's why for me like Legends of Arceus was such a success to me, because it's a modern Pokemon game that fucking excels at everything it tries to do. It's just a good game. It's just solid game.
Yeah.
Easy.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And, you know, again, I think I said this like back when it first came out, like the few things I could complain about are personal me things. They're my preferences. My preference, I don't love it. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's not my thing.
Yeah. Some people are looking for a different experience, and that is not at all what we're trying to discount. I'm mostly mad at, again, the thing I keep hammering, which is things that get set as standards and you can't deviate from it. Now it's been proven that this will make money or make subscribers, and that's it. And that's not fair. That's not fair to the people that are, again, the quiet minority, and then which very rapidly becomes the loud minority.
Yeah, and I mean, I do want to say, like, again, I'm not a game developer, and I do feel for a lot of game developers, I do, because I understand that it's a corporation's business at the end of the day. And I understand that, you know, I've even seen people talk about this on forums, like, there are some companies where the game developers are very loud about this, where they're like, hey, we didn't want to do it this way, but we had to. And I think that's cool. I don't know if they get in trouble for that at their job, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not, no.
But, you know, some companies will address the fans. You know, like, again, Final Fantasy 14, like, the newest expansion got delayed, and Yoshi P, the one who, like, you know, does the game, like, designs the game or leads the team, I'm not sure exactly what his job is. He's a big deal, though. Like, he fully, like, I think he was on Twitter, or I think it was at a conference or something, he's like, he apologized. He was like, yeah, like, you know, we don't want to delay the game, but we're having issues with this. We don't want this to be the game, so, like, we have to delay it. I'm sorry. And he, like, cried, and I was just like, dude.
Yeah, he cares about his product.
Yeah, you know, and like there's few other companies that have done that, like I said, where they'll be like, yeah, we didn't want to do it this way, but time ran out, we kind of had to, or like, you know, we're sorry it's like this, we didn't want it to be, but, you know, with time constraints, we had to focus on this aspect of the game, because we had to get it out. Those few people, you know, great. I understand. The gaming corporation probably sucks nowadays.
Yeah.
but I do think that there is a balance to be struck.
Totally.
Because quality games are still coming out. They're far and few between, but they are still coming out. You can have integrity in this industry. Cory Barlog has one of the most successful games in the world, and he doesn't do DLC. He doesn't do microtransactions.
Mm-mm.
Any DLC he does is free updates to the game. Just people wanted it. Like, oh, I want New Game Plus? Sure, I'll add New Game Plus.
Yeah.
You want a harder mode? Sure, we'll add that. No problem. No charge. Like, it still exists. You can still do it. I hope that balance returns.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm optimistic right now. I think 2022 is going to be a good year for me, but maybe not for everyone else. It just depends what you're into. Looks like there's a lot of cool RPGs coming out, so I'm excited to play them. But I will continue to talk about them. If they are good, I'll be like, this is why it's good. If they're bad, I'll tell you this is why it's bad, because that's the point.
Yeah, that's why we do this.
Yeah. Do you have any closing arguments or?
No closing arguments. I will say what I believe it boils down to is there's a new crop of gamer coming up every year, and I'm not saying that they potentially don't know what quality looks like or whatever, but I feel like them being catered to really detracts from the people that have been doing this for a long time. I would really invite, if you're a younger listener, dig out a PS2 if you have one at your access and play an older title just so you can get a frame of reference for what we are talking about. There is a lot
100%.
There's a lot to be gained there, and just because it's not shiny and new does not mean it's not amazing. I think it'll broaden your perspective and make you a little more critical to what's coming out now.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had friends be like, I really wish this game did this. I'm like, yeah, there's an older game that does that. Like, you just have to play it. And they're like, well, I can't play that. Like, it's an older game. Like, okay.
Then this is then you deserve everything that comes to you.
Yeah.
I would say that not letting developers releasing subpar things heavy hand the industry is kind of the line in the sand that I'm willing to draw on, and that's why I haven't been gaming much recently, because it's very hard to find something that really grabs me that I don't feel is going to be a horrible disappointment in the end. And that's hard. Again...
That's hard. I mean, something I would say, too, is be open-minded.
100%.
I think, especially when you do something for a long period of time, you can get very jaded or get very, just set in your ways of, I don't really like that, and, we've never tried it. This isn't like a drug thing of try the weed. That's not what I'm saying.
No, not at all.
But it's just, there are some games I've played that were delightful surprises.
Totally.
Because I just was bored on a Tuesday afternoon, and I was like, well, I just got off work. What am I going to play? I have nothing to play right now. I bought this for $5 a while ago. Sure, I'll try it out. Mm-hmm. Turns out, really fun game.
Yeah, it's wow, this is amazing. I'm really glad I had a Tuesday off.
Yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw Massacre was that for me.
Oh, hell yeah.
I thought that game was a weird fan servicey game, but I remember specifically when I got it because it was a sale on GameStop, and it was like, well, if you buy 2 pre-owned games, you get a third one for free. And I was like, well, I only really wanted this game, but what's cheap? And I was like, this is $5. Perfect, I'll grab it. Mm-hmm. So I had Lollipop Chainsaw Massacre, and I played it eventually, and I was like, this game fucking rules. This is so much fun.
Yeah, dude, I got, from a friend of mine, he was selling, actually, video games out of the backseat of his car for yard sales that didn't go down. And he had 3 games. He had the Sonic Adventures for GameCube, which I really wanted. He had Resident Evil 0, which I really, really wanted. And then he had a game called Serious Sam, which I was like, meh, about. But I ended up playing all 3 in over the course of a couple months, and I was like, yeah, these were all great finds. Pretty similar situation. I was like, I never would have played this Serious Sam game, but I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid to try something old and something out of your genre. You might dig it.
Yeah.
The worst you could have is a good time.
Yeah, exactly. I always say, whenever I recommend a game to a friend, I always say, if I know a specific staple in the game, of get to this point first. If you don't like it by then, you probably won't like it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I recommend slower RPGs or something like that. I'm like, it builds, trust me. But then other games, it's give it 5 hours. Give it a total of 5 hours of gameplay. You don't have to obsess over it that much. You can play it, half an hour here and there if you want to, but give it at least 5, maybe 10 hours of gameplay. See if you like it. My golden number is 20 hours because of a lot of games I play or recommend. Like they have a lot of gameplay in them, so I'll be like, play it for 20 hours, see if you like it.
Yeah.
As little or as much as you want to, try it.
For sure.
But yeah, that's usually my standard. So that's all I got, pretty much. I think.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Shout out to all of our listeners that give us a tune in. We always appreciate you.
Yeah, man, the Spotify and YouTube numbers are looking very good. So I appreciate everyone watching. I appreciate anyone recommending this to people. I know some of my friends have been like, yeah, I told my friend about this. I told my friend about this. He told his friend about that. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
I've even talked to a few people online who have said that. They're like, I should recommend this to somebody because this is really good. So
yeah, well, keep doing that. If you like what we got to do, I like doing it for you. So
yeah. All right. Well, cool sign off phrase.
Yeah, cool sign off phrase.